When you walk up to the vehicle with the key, it has the full proximity system, and when you get close to the vehicle, it senses the key, it turns on these little handle lights, and the side mirrors fold out. But there's no approach lights or anything like that. There's no exterior lights other than the handles that illuminate. Now let's hit the unlock button on the key. Now the interior lights will turn on and exterior lights will turn on. So tail lights, headlights, and all that stuff. And we still have that little handle light, but there's still no approach light. When you have the headlight switch in the complete off position, you still have these bright lights here in the front. These are like daytime running lights, and they're very bright. There's no tail lights though. So you could potentially mistake these as headlights and drive around, basically. It depends on how dark it is, with the headlights off and no tail lights. Now, if you want to turn off these exterior lights when you're parking, when you're sitting there parked, you do have to engage the parking brake, and it will turn these bright lights off. Now I have the parking lights on, and basically the parking lights are the same lights that we saw here, much dimmer though. And it's kind of like an H design there, but there's also this light that goes across, all the way across the front as well. Really cool looking. And it's bright white LEDs. And just really gives this vehicle a very distinct look. There's also an amber side marker here in the front, a red side marker here in the back, and then the taillights are red, of course, and they look like little dog bones, basically, or short stubby H's, I guess you can say. The tag light is now on, shining on the ground a little bit. But yeah, these are interesting taillights. Turn signal here in the front. Whoa, it is a bright turn signal. It's amber in color. Turn the brightness down on the camera here, way down, because it is super bright. Basically just takes that H and turns it into amber and makes it, whoa, super bright. And then there is a turn signal indicator here on the side mirror, which is amber in color. Not very bright, but it can be seen from the front, the side, and the back. And the turn signal back here is just basically that H, just a brighter red. So it just kind of flashes a little bit brighter, and that's it. It's not amber, it's not a separate light, it's the same light, and it's kind of in this low position as well. Now, if you have the four-way flashers, like the hazard lights on, and you lift up this tailgate, there will be another light below it that starts flashing. So because these dog bone looking lights are in the tailgate, so when you lift it up, they can't be seen by other drivers. So there is another light that starts flashing, basically. These tail lights also serve as the brake lights. There's a third brake light in the glass as well. And then there is two reverse lights at the bottom, and they're fairly bright. Okay, let's turn on the low beams. And the low beams are a projector. So there's actually, let me turn the brightness down. There's actually kind of these little slim projectors. I don't know if you can see that. Let me turn the brightness down even more. Hopefully you can see that. So there's two slim projectors, one on the top, one on the bottom. The top one is the low beams primarily, and the bottom one illuminates when the low beams are on, but that's primarily the high beams. But yeah, really nice looking. I like the way it's like this very slim little projector. Looking really nice. Okay, so let's go back here and see what the cutoff looks like. That's a really cool design, which is the two H's with the line connecting them together. Looks pretty cool. Okay, so I'm a little bit far away from the vehicle, so I dip down, yeah, right there. So this is about 2.5, 3 feet off the ground is where the cutoff is. Above that, I can look directly at the projectors. It's not hurting my eyes. But down here, as long as I'm above 2.5, 3 feet off the ground, then I should be good. That's where the cutoff is. So let's go to the high beams, and we're gonna look at it going down the road so you can see what it looks like on a dark road. But there's the high beams. And basically we have the same lights now on, those same two very slim projectors, but the lower one is brighter. So we have both of them illuminated, but that lower one is just really, really bright. So now basically the cutoff is basically right in my eyes. So I lifted up the power liftgate, and you can see these lights down here are now illuminated. So, you know, surface parking lights, and so other vehicles can see you, that kind of thing. Okay, so the cargo lights is actually surprising because it has a single dome right here, and then it has these two separate lights there. Now these are for the third row, which I have folded right now. So the third row is fairly well illuminated, but the cargo light is pretty decent. Even though there's only one light, it's in the center, it's in that high position, and it just shines down and illuminates this whole area. You notice there's no significant shadows or anything like that, and everything's, the brightness, it makes a big difference. The brightness makes a huge difference when it comes to having a single light, especially the placement too. So that high center position, very bright, you know, does an adequate job. I'm kind of surprised that it's just one light and it does a great job. There is a backlit USB and climate control switches there as well. Here on the left side, there is a USB that's not backlit for some reason. The inside of the rear door, it has this ambient light, which you can change the color. And then there's backlit buttons here as well. Looking really nice, but there's no puddle light or anything like that. There's no pocket lights, but could use a puddle light though. So the back seat is illuminated with a light on either side of the sunroof. Very similar to the third row where you have those two lights there. Basically shines right there on the seats and illuminates just fine. Even in the floorboard, it's actually decent. Now there's some USB ports here on the side of the seats that are not illuminated. There's this compartment on the back of this console here that's not illuminated. The inside of the driver's door, and once again, no puddle light or anything like that. No pocket lights, but we do have this ambient light there and backlit buttons complete here and here. And the lights here in the front are coming from the center, so there's two of them, and they shine mostly in the lap of the driver and passenger basically, but they do illuminate fairly decent. Not so much in the floorboard though, and there's no floorboard illumination. Okay, so I have the door open with the interior lights on, so you can see what it looks like here. Go ahead and shut the door. And we're left with the backlit buttons and this really nice ambient light. Really impressive. So you have these lines and surfaces. You can see this light shines on the surface, and then you have the lines here. So lines and surfaces. So just keep that in mind when we go into the adjustments there. With the steering wheel has the backlit buttons. The shifter through here is backlit. We have the dimmer switch over here. Let's go ahead and cycle through that. There's also settings on the screen in which you can adjust as well, but this is just kind of showing you what you can do with this button, which is comes in handy. So you can quickly adjust it. It goes from 0 to 100, so there's a lot of levels of a fine-tuning adjustment you can put here, and it just basically just sets the whole brightness level of pretty much everything. So you can see the screen here, and you can see the camera pops up. Got it too bright though, my camera. There we go. So you can see the blind spot camera on the left, the right, and then this, let's see, this camera right here. Go ahead and pop that up. So you can see around the vehicle pretty good, even there in the shadows. So all that looks good. All these backlit buttons here. And then there's some buttons down here that are backlit. Now the button is just below where the backlit part is, so it's fairly. I mean, you can still see it and everything. There's the off light on that. You have the drive modes. You have the auto hold feature, all that stuff. And then this is the wireless charger, which you don't see much light, but there is a little bit of light right here. And so it's enough to kind of see in the dark because you have this ambient light that just kind of fills this area slightly. Now the cup holders here are dark. The center console does have a light here. Glove compartment has a nice bright light. There's a little compartment cubby right above it though, right in here, that's dark. This compartment is also dark. Now this is the UV cleaner basically. So when you turn that on, it has a light, but you can't really see the light. But to sterilize stuff. But you know, there's no light to see there. There's a little cubby there to start. The glove compartment is bright though. No floorboard illumination. This one does have the rear view camera. So in addition to the backup camera, you have the rear view camera. You have the mirror as well, and the camera, which looks good, day or night. Backlit buttons up here as well. And you have the tap lights, reading lights, driver, passenger. You can turn on all the interior lights. You can, right now it's set to have the lights turn on with the door, but you can turn that feature off if you want right there. The visors have a mirror. But you notice that there is no light that automatically turns on. You have to turn it on manually, right there. And if you accidentally leave it on, when you lift this up, it turns it off. Basically, this presses the button, basically, to turn it off. But it does have a light, you just have to turn it on. The heads-up display is really good. You can see it good. You can adjust it here in the settings and adjust the brightness and all that stuff. But yeah, the heads-up display looks really good. And this is the new one where the little lines move and it has all the more information on the heads-up display as well as the screen. Really impressive. But if you want to adjust and change the color here for the ambient light, you go into the vehicle settings, go to light, and then you have these different settings here. Ambient light is at the top. So go through and show you what the settings I have turned on. You have this button right here. It's interesting because it illuminates the interior buttons and switches at all times. So we're going to turn that off. I hadn't really tried that, but it is an interesting setting where maybe some buttons turn off when you're driving or something like that. We'll go ahead and turn that off to see what happens. Let's go into the ambient lighting. You can adjust the brightness. So if we go here to the brightness, we can turn those completely off. And we can bring it up to, say, there's 3. And then there's 10. We can also link it to drive mode. We can also have them dim in darkened conditions. So let's go to color. And right now it's set as a color, a custom color basically. So there's a color wheel there, and we can, you know, adjust what we want here. Usually there's not a pink, so we'll go ahead and add a pink. Let's go back. There's a purple. There's a white. Let's see, there's white, moon white, ice blue, ocean blue, and there is a jade green, orchid green, freesia yellow, sunrise red, aura purple, lightning violet, and then we have the custom color, which we have set to the pink. We'll go ahead and, yeah, put it back to pink. All right, let's go ahead and make that more of a purple. That looks good. I don't know if you can see these right here. I can't see these with my eyes, but the camera picks up these little lights right here. And basically there is a camera and little infrared illuminators that shine on your face to make sure you're paying attention while you're driving. And if this gets covered up while you're driving, it will alert you and turn off the system basically. But that's what those little light things are. Once again, I can't see them with my eyes at all. Only the camera here can pick it up. There's a little notch right there that lines up with the oncoming lane. There's the high beams, there's the low beams. And we'll see what it looks like. I have the automatic high beams on right now. So we'll see how they work. Usually Hyundai's features are, they just basically, if it has the feature, then it works well. All right, yeah, see that oncoming lane? Yeah, now we're flashing cars. See that oncoming lane? There's a shadow there on the ground, and it lines up with the oncoming lane. So that's what the purpose of that shadow is. So it's not a misalignment of the headlights or anything. It's intended to be a line up with the oncoming lane for glare in case it's raining and there's a, you know, the surface is wet, so you don't want to reflect light in people's faces, but also the deviations in the road as you're driving. You know, the vehicle bounces up and down and goes up and down hills and stuff. So that kind of helps out a little bit as far as blinding other drivers. Really like this heads-up display. It's pretty cool. It's not overly bright. It's very sharp and clear and visible, and has useful information without overly being cluttered and having a bunch of distracting stuff. So it's really well done, I think. Okay, so we have a dark road and we can see pretty good. Turn the brightness down in here. Let's see if the automatic high beams work. Alright, so yeah, we're dimming the lights. So the low beams with that cutoff is actually pretty good, because everything below that cutoff is fairly visible. Now the brightness, the only thing is the brightness. I would say the brightness could be a little bit better, both the low and the high beams. The pattern is good though. The pattern is really good, but the brightness is okay. I mean, I have the brightness on my camera a little bit higher, so it probably looks brighter than what it really is. But yeah, I can see the trees in the distance, and I can see on the sides of the road. There's no fog lights or anything like that, but we can still see close to the vehicle and fairly well as far as the distance. I think it's the low beams that's really not the brightest low beams in the world. I think they could be a little bit brighter, because really the high beam, since it's an additional light and it's not like, you know, just trying to refocus a single light, we have 4 lights and with the high beams on, and the high beams are pretty good. Yeah, the high beams are pretty good. Still, the brightness could be better though, I think. But there's still adequate headlights. I just thought that looking at the projectors and how nice they look and how there's 4 of them, I thought it'd be a little bit better than what I'm seeing here, but it's still good. Still good headlights, but I think I just got my hopes up too much, you know. But yeah, the brightness, if there was a little bit brighter, I think it'd be better, but as it is, they're still good.